Hi, everybody. It's Eileen Green from Market Share Communications, and I am so excited today to be welcoming Andrea Pass from Andrea Pass Public Relations for our first Meet the Experts back in 2022, 1922. I'm okay, 2022. And Andrea, I'm thrilled to have you as our guest today. Please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into public relations.
Well, hi, Eileen. It's so wonderful for you to have me as your guest. I know 2022, I'm so glad it's finally here. It's an exciting time. And just a quick overview, I've been in public relations for a long time. I started at the CBS radio division in New York City, focusing on PR for radio broadcasts nationally. So everything from news to music to sports. And then I went to the agency side of things, and I've represented such a wide range of clients over the years in public relations. But my expertise is pitching and placing. I pitch a story, I get the press to run the story, I provide the story to the client, the circle, it goes on and on and on and on. And that's what I love doing. So for all these years, I've been pitching and placing and securing press coverage for a wide range of clients in the business to business and business to consumer marketplace. I love what I do. So I guess that means I never work a day in my life. And the world in PR has changed tremendously since the start of the pandemic. And I still find a way to get those stories told and keep the clients relevant, grow their brands, drive sales using press coverage, which in essence is third-party editorial endorsement.
So yeah, talk a little bit about the PR end, because as you know, we're in marketing and people often confuse the two. Talk a little bit about what the benefits of PR and how that works versus paid advertising and marketing and so forth.
And it's so interesting because public relations is often the misunderstood element of the marketing mix. And you might say that about marketing is the misunderstood element of the communications mix. And I think that there's so much knowledge to be had in what we do, but what we do is so different. And in public relations, we are securing press. We are not paying for that press coverage. Whereas today there are pay-to-play press opportunities, which are more advertorial than editorial. Public relations is earned media. It's finding media that's interested in your story, whether your story is breaking news, evergreen content, whether you have a product or a service, or you've written a book, fiction, nonfiction, cookbook, or you're a nonprofit. There is press to be had. And I think that's where the confusion is. Advertising is expensive. You might pick a 4-color glossy ad to run in a great magazine that's national. For the same amount of money, you could probably do a public relations campaign for 3 or 4 months. Wow. So advertising has that dollar attached to it, and people know when they're looking at an ad, they know that ad was placed there by the company. They know that ad was created and it was there to pat that company on the back. In public relations, the editor, the journalist, the producer, the reporter, they have all rights on that content. They're going to ask you what they want to ask you, and they are going to focus on what they want to focus in that broadcast, print, or online piece. So you, as the client, don't have control over the content. You have control over your answer, but you don't have control over whether you would be featured in a story or a segment, one line in that story or segment, or possibly cut out of it if what you say didn't mix with what that journalist wanted to cover. So there's that tremendous difference between advertising and public relations, because you know you're getting news content. You know you're getting the truth. And that's what's different about an ad. In an advertisement, it might be print, might be broadcast, but people click through. They don't want to watch that. We all fast forward if we DVR something. In public relations, people are going to take the time to read that article, listen to that interview, watch that interview, because they have a vested interest in the topic. So PR really increases your brand awareness using that third-party earned media editorial coverage.
So question, how do you find the right story to go with the right client? Is it about having lots of contacts, I imagine? But what if you get a client in a new area and you're not familiar with their industry or their profession? How do you go about finding something for them?
I think what's interesting about the world of public relations is there are tens of hundreds of thousands of media outlets today. So we have those journalists who actually went to college and studied a journalist topic. And then we have homegrown journalists who created a blog or a vlog or a podcast. And they too have an area of expertise because they're focusing on a topic that might be near and dear to their hearts. So I always joke, and I call myself a PI in PR because I have to be a private investigator to figure out the right media contact to pitch a story. And so I don't have to necessarily be an expert at the client's topic. I have to learn it and read up, but I don't have to be the pro. I have to be the pro at leading the horse to water and getting the horse to drink. And that's what I do by reaching out to the press with an interesting story. If I don't have an interesting story and I get no response, I've got to change that pitch around. And so I was saying zig and zag before the word pivot became popular. And I've always zigged and I've always zagged to get a story told. And it's hard because we have so much breaking news right now.
Yes.
I mean, the top of the hour, where years ago it was 5 minutes, 8 minutes, the top of the hour is now 20 minutes to half an hour on some shows because there is so much breaking news. How do you sift through it and get your message told? It's working with a qualified public relations person that knows how to work you into stories, to reach out to the press and get your story or your sentence or your quote or product or book included in that. And then to work with you and your social media team to make sure you're marketing that piece that came out about you.
That's great. And I know that over the years, you've gotten some of your clients placed on some pretty significant media outlets. You want to share some of them?
Yeah, you know, it's very interesting because each outlet reaches a different audience. And when I always used to ask this interview question when I was interviewing for PR people, what's your hit of a lifetime? And in my world, hit means public relations placement. And so a few years ago, I was representing a major as seen on TV marketer. And I was able to, after about 8 months of pitching this media outlet, I secured a double segment in ABC 2020. Wow. And so the crew from 2020 came with us to Chicago, to Florida, to New York City, to the client's office in New Jersey. And it took months for this to be edited, and they had to bump it. And I'm thinking, oh no, this isn't going to air because it was supposed to air a certain day. And they said, no, we're bumping it because we decided there's too much content for only one segment. We're devoting 2 segments to this story. So, you know, from those stories there on the Today Show or on Good Morning America or featured in the Wall Street Journal, just as many stories were featured in local target market daily newspapers, appropriate blogs, podcasts, radio shows. I had a heck of a lot of fun representing Chef Wolfgang Puck, and we were on Ellen and Rachel Ray, Wendy Williams, Good Morning America, Meredith Vieira had a show, and being at all of these studios with Chef Puck was a lot of hard work, a lot of hours that went into each segment, but they drew awareness. At the time, he was launching an online cooking school. So each story reaches a touch point that could be that buyer that's interested in that product or that service. So I'm just as proud of those known names as I am for a podcast that resulted in a client getting a new customer, or a blog review on a product that the product sold out because it was featured on that blog. So keep in mind that it's not always about the numbers, it's about the target audience. So whether you're reaching a blog, and one of my favorite stories is I have a mom blog, to this day, probably under 1,000 unique views a month, small, but dedicated. And then you look at something that might be on Huffington Post and there's no engagement, no likes. And Huffington Post is close to 2 million unique views a month. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's great for you to be on that. You could certainly use that logo on your website or what have you, but you want an audience that will have a result for you.
That's the name of the game today. It's all about target marketing, especially like you said, so many blogs, so many video logs, vlogs, so many podcasts, people can get some feature. It's just a matter of where the target market is that's going to be listening or viewing what they need. So what else would you like to tell us? And how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
Well, I think first off, the message that I have for everyone is, yes, you need public relations, and yes, start now. It isn't necessary to wait 6 months, 8 months, a year. If your book came out last year, that's okay. You could still publicize it now. If you have a new service that you're launching in 6 months, get started about 3 months before the launch of that new service. So make sure public relations is in your marketing mix and you have allocated dollars. Any PR person that guarantees you a placement is not telling you the truth. The only way they can guarantee is if they're paying for it, and major publications like the Wall Street Journal are not taking paid content. You would need an advertisement to do that. So reach out to me. I'm always available to speak, and certainly for your listeners and viewers, if they'd like a free half-hour consultation, please go to AndreaPassPR.com in my appointments tab and schedule a time to speak to me, because you may not realize it, but you do have a story and a way to spread the word using public relations. And so look me up on Facebook, Andrea Pass Public Relations, or on LinkedIn, Andrea Pass. Let's get to know one another and let me help you grow your name. So this year you will be in the press and others will learn more about you from that editorial content.
That was great, Andrea. Thank you so much. And I just want to say to everyone who is watching or listening, PR is just part of the whole marketing and communications mix, as Andrea pointed out. There's social media, which goes hand in hand with it. There's branding that goes hand in hand with it. Having your website up to date with your PR on there. If you have some feature stories that Andrea can get you, or be on a podcast, you want links to all of this. So all of this works hand in hand. And as she pointed out, it's not just for the major enterprise companies. There are lots of solopreneurs. Now we're talking about the Great Resignation in February of 2022. So many people are now starting their own little businesses, starting their own, entrepreneurial enterprise. So it's not just, PR isn't just for big companies, nor is marketing. It's for everybody who wants to get their business known and to build their business and grow their brand. So that was great. Thank you so much for your time today. And we will put up your contact information on the screen so anybody that wants to reach out to you can. And I will look forward to seeing you again soon with another guest on Meet the Expert from Market Share Communications. Have a great day, everybody. Andrea, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.